This is CityCast Philly. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Joining me this week at the Fiddler Club for our Friday News Roundup is CityCast Philly executive producer Matt Katz. Hey, Matt.
What's up, Trenae?
Hey. We are going to be talking about a lot of different topics today. We're going to be talking about questions over the big July 4th concert on the Parkway, a mysterious and really grisly police investigation happening at a home in Olney, your opinions about those e-bikes and e-scooters zipping around all over the place, taking over the streets, and for our members only, we got a list of some free things you could do this weekend. Before we get into all of that, Matt, we've got to clean things up around here.
Yeah, literally. We don't have room in our cramped Philly row homes to keep all this CityCast Philly merch that we've accumulated over the years. So we've got to move it out. And I also don't have room because my daughter keeps buying back-to-school tank tops from Target, and they're taking up too much space. So this merch is one of the perks that we offer our members, who we call CityCast Philly neighbors. And we're trying to get some new stuff in for the fall. So we're looking to give away a bunch of the items that we have that we're holding on to right now. And we're hoping a few of you who are listening will consider becoming CityCast Philly neighbors so we can send you some of this merch. And in addition to all that, you'll get access to our early events listings, our special members only events every few months, an extra segment we do on Fridays with tips and tricks for living your best Philadelphia life. And you get ad-free listening to the podcast. So if you support us now by going to membership.citycast.fm/Philly, we've got some special items to give away.
Yes. And we got some new neighbors this week, which I will shout you out. Here is what one of our newest neighbors had to say. Alexandra B. says, "Thank you for the news and events every morning. I love sharing with my coworkers." So along with maybe sharing those office pretzels, you can share CityCast Philly with your coworkers, and you can show it on a Zoom call with the pennant.
Yes.
Or show up to the office wearing the CityCast Philly tote bag. Everyone's going to be hating on you. They're like, "Where'd you get that?" CityCast Philly. So join Alexandra and everyone else who signed up for just $10 a month or $100 for a year. And that gets you access to all the great things that Matt just talked about. And it allows you to get one of the I Live Here on Purpose Philly pennants or one of those tote bags I was talking about. And it says, "Neighbors Make Philly."
They're great. Sturdy canvas tote bag. It's beautiful. And the Philly pennant you always have behind you. You usually have behind you when you're doing the recordings. Yeah. And they look very cool. I live here on purpose is such a perfect Philly motto that we've been pushing out there with these pennants. So last I checked, we have 89 of these pennants. We've got 38 of these totes left. So become a member today, $10 a month, $100 a year. Wear your Philly pride around town with that tote. Show off that Philly pride in your home office with that pennant. Like I say, limited swag, unlimited local media. What do you think about that,
I like that. For just $10 a month, $100 a year, you can become a neighbor right now. Head over to membership.citycast.fm/Philly to join and snag the swag while we got it.
Trenae, one of the ways that these membership dollars go to use is for you to be able to, schlep your equipment all over town to interview folks and newsmakers, really. And I want to talk about an interview that you did earlier this summer when you brought all your gear over to City Hall and you sat down with Mayor Sherrell Parker. You talked about a wide range of topics, really interesting stuff, really interesting to hear from the mayor herself and for you to press her on some issues. One of the central topics of that conversation that you had with her was the July 4th festivities, our big celebration this summer marking the 250th birthday of the United States of America, born right here in Philadelphia. And the mayor had a lot on her shoulders this year to make sure Philly, as the birthplace of America, became a central focus for tourists and residents alike in order to celebrate us and celebrate in a remarkable and special way, given this landmark anniversary. So your interview with the mayor about the aftermath of the July 4th celebration was a few weeks ago now, but it's getting some new attention. It's being parsed and analyzed a bit for something she said regarding the party that she put on July 4th on the Parkway because she had entered into this contract with an events company and set up what you asked her about that concert and about that contract.
I think a lot of us have been curious about whether the investments made for this summer's big event. So not just America's 250th, but also FIFA World Cup and the MLB All-Star Weekend, right? So much has gone to marketing and sprucing up the city. And then we got mixed reviews from tourists who fell in love with the city, right? They're running up the Rocky Steps, and residents who said, they didn't really like the crowds, and parking in Brewery Town and around Fairmount Avenue got kind of complicated. And business owners, some said, hey, we appreciated the uptick in business, and others said, we didn't see any of it. So I asked Mayor Parker specifically about also the criticism of spending $15 million for the July 4th concert, which she told me was important for her because I asked her, why was rebranding this concert as the One Philly Unity Concert for America important for you? Why was rebranding that important for you? And she said, because this was her basically legacy project, if you will.
Yeah, because this concert happens every year, right? But in this year, it was normally called the Wawa
Welcome
Concert
America.
for America.
Wawa
Welcome America, right?
Right.
And then she took her own slogan, One Philly, and rebranded this concert, got rid of the Wawa part,
right?
Rebranded it with this
because
slogan.
The city puts on the concert and not the rest of the festivities that are attached with Wawa, Welcome America, the free admission to museums all around the city. Because she wasn't able to have a legacy project, if you will, right? There wasn't enough time to build a new structure, how we got the Ben Franklin Bridge, which was built for America's 150th birthday, or even a new building like the Police Touch Museum.
Yeah, the Police Touch Museum was built where it is Memorial Hall, which was built in 1876 for the 100th anniversary. And then the Police Touch Museum, as we know it today, opened in 1976 for the 200th anniversary. So there are all these big ways we've marked America's big anniversaries in the city of Philadelphia.
Right. So these big legacy projects. Well, Parker says she didn't really have time for that. So this July 4th concert was her, what she called legacy experience in the city. Now, along with that $15 million price tag, which was criticized, and the untimely thunderstorm that delayed the concert and the fireworks till the wee hours of the morning, what's being questioned is what she said about the hiring of this company, ESM Productions, to put on the concert. Here's a clip from my sit-down interview with Mayor Parker.
And I say, okay, we're producing what we're producing for 2024, 2025. We'll make it work. But for 2026, when we are the #1 global travel destination in the United States, not because I said it, but the Wall Street Journal, the Times, every entity that you could think of, I'm going to make sure our city does something magical. It will be a legacy experience like we've never had before, especially because I can't have a legacy project like the Ben Franklin Bridge or the Please Touch. And so we say, we hope you all would consider coming back and applying for the opportunity to present this concert for America's 250. I am grateful, and I want to say a special thank you right now to Scott Merkin from ESM, to Quest, and all of the roots, to Sean G, and Live Nation Urban. The three of those entities work together, and they produce a concert, even considering the weather, that Philadelphia, the world will be talking about forever when they think about 250 years. So for the people who agree to disagree about it, you've never seen a stage. This was broadcast over Paramount. It was streamed. That's a global stream. And we are the birthplace of democracy. We've never had a global stream like that. When we had done it before, maybe, in the Philadelphia area, you get bits and pieces, maybe a little bit in Buckchester, Delaware. But this was a global audience with all of what we were doing. So do I apologize for the amazing lineup that included hip hop, R&B, country, every jazz? No, it needed to be reflective of Philadelphia. I'm proud of what they produced. And a special thank you, I don't know their names, but these are the people who produced the Super Bowl. When people looked at that stage and they saw the branding, definitely intentional about the branding, we are one Philly.
So here she was explaining to you how this company, ESM, got involved and got this big contract to put on this $15 million concert. And she said she invited this company because they knew how to put on a big show. They've got this international reputation for putting on big events on the global stage. And she wanted, since we couldn't have a legacy project, she told us she wanted a legacy experience. So now Axios Philadelphia, the news site, they enter the picture. And they're like, hold up. First of all, the city never sought other bids for this concert before hiring ESM. And Axios says that might be against city procurement rules. So they did a whole follow-up article really like about your interview, saying that the mayor's account of hiring ESM, where she says she invited them, quote, raises questions. Because instead of new bids, they didn't really put in a new bid. The contract for the July 4th concert relied on an existing deal that ESM had to do a New Year's Eve celebration on the Parkway with a agency called the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development. So they basically tacked on the July 4th concert onto this existing contract.
So the question is, was all of this legal and above board?
Right.
That's the question. So Axios quoted a University of Pennsylvania law professor who said it could be, quote, legally problematic if the administration steered ESM toward the 4th of July contract without opening it up to other companies.
I don't necessarily see a smoking gun here. It seems that administrations in the city and state are always contracting with companies that have existing relationships with officials. I don't know the specific legality of procurement rules, so I can't speak to the legal elements of it. But from an outsider perspective, it does seem like a kind of thing that does happen. I don't know if it's perfectly ethical or even fiscally sound, but it does seem to be the way government often works, for better or for worse. The bigger question for me here is how this could potentially be used politically against the mayor, who is up for re-election next spring. Within the year, there's going to be a Democratic primary for mayor. So that is interesting to me. And if you take this no-bid contract and couple that with the fact that this concert cost $15.5 million in taxpayer funds, which was a mini controversy in itself. And then you throw the weather in, which definitely put a damper on the show.
I don't know.
That's not her fault.
Yeah, it's not her fault. You can't control the freaking weather.
I know. But if all those things together make it feel like a bit of a boondoggle, Christina Aguilera was supposed to be one of the headliners. She didn't show up because of the rain. The fireworks ended after 2 a.m. because they got delayed by the rain, and they waited till after the concert was over. And then they did the fireworks, and then they went off in the middle of the night, and that scared the shit out of all the babies and the dogs in Fairmount, right? I
fell asleep when Will Smith got on stage, and then I woke back up and I'm like, oh, it's still going on.
Yeah. So all that felt like a bit of a hot mess, even if clearly the weather was not the mayor's fault. Mm-hmm. But you could see all of those things kind of being packaged together, including this contract situation as an attack against a mayor in a mayoral election, potentially.
Well, I also asked, too, about when we would get a report about the impacts of all these summer events, which, again, to her credit, went off safely. And I made that point, too, because, you know, we did all get to enjoy these things in a pretty much safe environment.
Yeah, and also about the time that you did this interview, the city opened up a bidding process for companies to do a financial evaluation of the fiscal impact of the festivities on the city and whether it supported our tax base and our businesses and whatnot. So we're waiting on a contract to be awarded to a financial firm to get an analysis of, and what should be an independent analysis of the fiscal impact. And that we were all very curious to see because we got such mixed reactions from business owners in terms of like whether all of this 250th hoopla really helped the businesses and the bottom line of the city itself.
Well, I think also, too, you know, what was also important during these events, the city was putting out numbers of just how many folks were traveling on SEPTA, how many people were going through the free FIFO Fan Fest. We as Philadelphians are trying to figure out, was all of this investment worth it all at the end? So we'll continue to follow the story. All right, we've got more news after the break. Okay, this is a bit of a dark story that we've got to cover. It's making national headlines, and this is all happening at a home in Olney.
Yeah, and I feel like this is going to end up as like a Netflix series one day, like a true crime Netflix series.
Totally.
And if you're a little squeamish or listening with kids, just turn down the volume for a couple of minutes as we go through this. June 19th this year, a park ranger at Independence Mall sees a guy named Eugene Horsch and a woman acting suspiciously inside a parked BMW. They search the car, they find drugs, guns, and other weapons, and a fake DEA badge, Drug Enforcement Agency. Okay? The woman with Horsch also has a fake ID. This is, and she's got a fake ID with the name of a woman who disappeared in 2023 and was last seen at Horsch's home up in Olney. So already like super suspicious. So the cops start sniffing around. There was a woman who was married to Horsch's father, Raymond, and she was missing since 2016, also last seen at the Olney home where Eugene and his father, Raymond, lived. Also, cops began to find a lot of stories about the father, Raymond Horsch. Stories about him bragging that he had killed people and melted their bodies with chemicals in his basement. He told people he can make a body so small it could be flushed down the toilet. I mean, really like dark stuff that the cops are uncovering, and now the FBI gets involved.
Right. And for some of our listeners, this story might sound familiar because Abby and I had talked about it earlier this summer. But so then after that, the cops start searching this home in Olney. There's been a police barricade around it. And I read that they excavated the yard and removed a pipe to test for DNA. So far, the police have found, according to the Inquirer, more than 20 containers of an unknown chemical and oily substances, 50 hard drives and other electronic devices with more than 600,000 images, 70,000 videos, and 10,000 pages of writings and drawings.
And the content of this is pretty dark stuff. Raymond Horsch, the father who recently had passed away, he was a pornographic filmmaker with a dark and violent bent. He was known, police have now found, to offer drugs and money and housing to women in addiction in Philly in exchange for nude photo and video shoots. And there was often graphic violence associated with the films and books that he made with these women's images. So the cops are searching through all of this material, and this week they announced that they found evidence of two women who they believe were actually killed in the home. They found graphic and dark depictions of dead bodies of two women, and they actually identified these women, and they announced their names this week. They were Gabrielle Amarando, who had been missing since 2012, and Maribel Freses, who was reported missing back in 2018. The Inquirer spoke to relatives of the women who were both addicted to drugs from a young age. They clearly fell in with some rough people. The relatives were heartbroken, although not entirely surprised to get confirmation this week that they had died.
But they still haven't found human remains in this Olney home. So the women have not yet been declared dead. And investigators have only gone through about 5% of the media that I had talked about before that was found in this home. So there could be more developments as investigators keep going through this evidence.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. And so far, the son, who's alive, father's dead, son is alive, he has not been charged. But again, like you said, even though the police say these women have died, they have not been officially declared dead by the medical examiner because they haven't found any remains.
All right, we'll be back after this break. Okay, so earlier this week, we had a segment on the show where we were talking about how Philly is just fired up about e-bikes and e-scooters and e-motorcycles, all these forms of what they're calling
we're calling them micro mobility devices.
Devices? Okay, vehicles, transportation.
Because they call them devices for some reason.
Devices. That's strange.
And and we talked about how there's like no regulations or rules around these things. And they're everywhere.
At least in Pennsylvania and in Philly.
Right.
So basically, people are just zooming all about however they want in which you don't like in bike lanes.
Bike lanes, I don't like it. I really don't like it on sidewalks.
Definitely not on sidewalks.
We talked about this a little bit, and we mentioned in the newsletter, and we've been flooded with your, reactions, with Philadelphians telling us what they think about these devices and their experiences with them. So we want to read a couple of comments that we got from our listeners and readers because they're pretty interesting, and it's compelling to hear what you guys think. We got a nuanced view from Milton V. He said, e-bikes are a boon for those that need a swift way to move around the city. Which we talked about that, Trenae, right? That's interesting. And it potentially could be the only mode of transportation for some people.
Right, because people don't have cars or, these devices have filled in gaps where public transportation is not available for people.
100%. However, according to Milton, due to their speed, weight, and acceleration, e-bikes represent a completely different category of vehicle compared to like bicycles and pose a significant safety risk to pedestrians when operated on sidewalks. Milton said, for the safety of our community, I believe it is crucial that e-bikes are restricted to the roads and established bike lanes rather than pedestrian walkways. So he's a cyclist, but he said they should be allowed on bike lanes, but just not on pedestrian walkways on sidewalks.
And I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah. Though there's just so many different categories of these things. Like, I'm cool with the electric scooter next to me on the bike lane, but the full-on like electric motorcycle where they can go up to 40 miles an hour and they got a big old headlight and they're zooming past me.
You want that on a regular street.
I prefer that on the street. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ruby K says to keep them off the sidewalks. And this is what Ruby says. I agree. These forms of transportation should not be on the sidewalks. They should use the streets. I do understand how they might feel that using the streets might not be safe considering how people drive these days, but they are a menace to pedestrians walking on this sidewalk. Just my 2 cents. Listen, Ruby, I like the 2 cents that you putting in there because, and I am a driver, and I will admit, drivers are reckless up in this city. At the same time, pedestrians are definitely at more of a risk if they get hit with a moving device.
There's another potential victim involved here. Carrie in Fairmont has had numerous encounters with her dog. Carrie said, when we walk at night in particular, we have countless encounters with e-bikes on the sidewalks, making deliveries, bright headlights, moving at a fast speed. Carrie said, there have been multiple occasions when my dog and or me have been almost struck. Carrie says that she also bikes and has had e-bikes traveling so fast close to her bike without any regard for bike lane etiquette. She says, I do think there should be some type of regulation for these bikes. And again, not on the sidewalks.
Right. And Carrie was specific that they are riding a traditional bike, not an e-bike. And so in this week's conversation, we were talking about how there's some legislation proposals to sort of like regulate these devices in Philly and in Pennsylvania. And one of them being, should you have a license to operate these devices, which is something that Council Member Jeffrey Young has proposed. Marissa says, even if we regulate these bikes, the rules will not be enforced. Here's what Marissa says. Just because e-micro mobility doesn't have the same level of regulations as other motor vehicles doesn't mean that those regulations will be enforced. Enforcement also can't be everywhere all the time. The roads need to be designed to safely accommodate all users. E-micromobility users are getting unfairly villainized. Let's focus on the much higher daily risk of getting hit by a motor vehicle, shall we?
That's interesting. So she's defending these e-vehicles. She's saying the cars are more dangerous.
Okay, so we love hearing your feedback. Keep it coming. We got a lot of other topics coming up that we want to have your input on. So stay connected with us through our newsletter and on the pod. All right, Matt, what are you doing this weekend?
I'm going to Wildwood Crest for the day on Saturday. Going to hit the beach.
Nice.
Down the Jersey Shore. I literally have not been down to the Jersey Shore all summer.
Me either. I was thinking about doing a quick day trip down to the shore as well.
Yeah.
But Matt, you brought up earlier in the show how your house is starting to be flooded with basically back to school clothes. And I'm going to tell you what I'm planning to do. I've got a pre-teenager and I have a teenager. And like back to school is coming up in a few weeks. And one thing, like aside from the binders and the folders that I have to go hunt and search for, I'm also looking for like hygiene products so that they can put in their bags. And so I'm having conversations about, on-the-go fabric sprays, these small little toothbrushes that you don't need water for, and little pocket deodorants. Because my kids are active in sports, and sometimes, we don't get home until like late at night, and you want to feel refreshed. And so I'm having those conversations this weekend.
Oh, okay. That's good. Good. You're planning ahead for a smooth and hygienic start to the school year.
Right.
Nice.
And also starting to fill up the cabinets with snacks.
Nice, of course. Got it.
And before we go, we have some CityCast Philly neighbor shout outs. Welcome to the neighborhood, Andrew J., Stephen A., Teresa H., Tobias H., and Alexandra B. Thank you all so much for becoming our neighbors. And you can become a neighbor too right now. Get some Philly swag, become a neighbor, get special invites to some upcoming member-only events that we've got planned. Head over to membership.citycast.fm/Philly. And a part of being a neighbor is that we will shout out your favorite business or nonprofit. And Stephen A. wants us to shout out Root to Fruit, a meal delivery service run by local chef Josh Broder. Local, healthy, delicious. Head over to membership.citycast.fm/Philly if you also want to hear the bonus neighbors segment that we do every Friday. So if you're a neighbor, we'll talk to you in just a bit. And if you're not, have a great weekend. Matt, thanks so much for chatting with me this week on CityCast Philly.
Have a great weekend. Maybe I'll see you down the shore, or maybe I'll see you hunting for Liberty Bells. You never know.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Our executive producer is Matt Katz. Our creative producers are Abby Fritz and Siani Colon. Our producers are Matilde Arfelino and Francisco Kilgore. Our senior account executive is Maureen Kaiser. Our audience development manager is Spencer Morris. And our host is me, Trenae Nuri. Music is by Philly's own Interminable, with additional music from all the kimonos. If you enjoyed this show, this week of episodes, make sure you tell your coworkers and your friends. Also, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news and conversations happening around the city. Have a great weekend and be safe, y'all. Bye.